You're listening to WCAT Radio, your home for authentic Catholic programming.
Hello and welcome to the Catholic Mama Podcast. I'm your host, Christine Mooney Flynn, and thanks for joining me on this week's episode of Magnificence with my husband, Pat.
Hello.
Hello, husband.
I'm back again.
Yet another week, and yet you're still here.
Mm-hmm. Always a joy to be on my favorite podcast, The Catholic Mama. I recommend it to all my friends.
All two?
Both of them.
Both of them.
To both of my friends, yep.
If you hear any loud clumping sounds in the background, it's probably a St. Bernard who refuses to get her nails clipped.
We've got one of those. Mm-hmm.
We do, and she's bad. Real bad.
She's a lovable bad dog.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cartoonish. Mm-hmm. I think she is. Anyway, as much as I would like to talk about the badness of our dog, because I could go on for a long time about how bad she is. Just real quick, if anybody's listening who has seen the movie Beethoven from 92? Mm-hmm. Is that when Beethoven came out? If that montage from 92? Is that when Beethoven came out? If that montage of all the bad things that Beethoven does, like even the paw prints and the slobber everywhere,
grabbing the turkey from the Thanksgiving dinner,
ruins Thanksgiving dinner when the family's praying, that is our dog.
Legit. It's
St. Bernard. We have her name is Lola St. Bernard, and she does everything that Beethoven does in that bad dog montage.
It's so
She's
true.
eaten a dozen chocolate donuts. Yep. She's eaten a whole pizza. Mm-hmm. She's eaten a pound bag of Rolos with the tin foil on it.
She's eaten your breakfast right off of its plate.
When I had morning sickness.
Mm-hmm.
She will eat things out of people's hands. It's very, why isn't she more thoughtful? But anyway, so if you see Beethoven and see the bad dog montage, that is Lola. Mm-hmm. Except thankfully somehow smaller. She's a runt as far as St. Bernard's goes.
And very pretty.
And she's beautiful. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Not like the St. Bernard that they got for the sequel.
No.
Who is not pretty as far as St. Bernards go. They could have done much better, I think. Poor casting.
Indeed.
The past two episodes we did What Do Catholics Believe? And then we kind of did a part two of that, but also segued into How to Be a Catholic.
Yes.
And now we'd like to spend a little bit of time on this episode talking about what it means to be a Catholic and how to be a Catholic in cancel culture. Because if you've listened to the podcast over the past month or so, you probably heard the episode where we talked about I did the novena in reparation for the desecration of sacred icons, was bullied relentlessly for that. Mm-hmm. And so we did talk a bit about what it's like to stand up to bullies in cancel culture and people who just are out for your head.
Yep.
Not justice, by the way. It's
Good
not
old
justice.
French Revolution style.
Yeah. Madame Guillotine. So we've talked about this a little bit, but I mean, for most people, they probably aren't going to... I would imagine a lot of us aren't in that same position of saying something and having the mob descend. Now, of course, that could happen.
Right.
But how do we navigate? Because we live in a very bizarre time where even it should be that you can believe, it's freedom of belief, right? And you can say whatever you want within reason.
Yep.
But people are out for blood.
Yeah, so, I mean, just to give some examples, right? So I have many friends who are professors in universities, various universities, some even Catholic universities, who are outwardly afraid to publish on certain topics because they know that it would step outside of that mainstream rhetorical narrative and that essentially all hell would rain down upon them, as it has for people who have published on certain issues. And everybody, I'm sure, is familiar with any of these issues, right? If you question any of the mainstream narratives of gender ideology, for example, that's essentially writing your death sentence in academia these days. And if you have tenure, then as I've interviewed actually former professors on my podcast who've gone through this, if they can't fire you, they will find other ways to make your life an absolute living hell. Like moving you to the Russian department and not riding in the elevator with you if they see like really bizarre stories. And then I have other friends in corporate America who, same thing, because, they're afraid that they're going to have to be brought forth in front of the Stalinist apparatchik, the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, and, indoctrinated in a bunch of leftist propaganda. And maybe even lose their jobs because people will. That's part of the sort of, I guess, cancel culture mentality. Is if you step out of line, they will do anything they can to cancel you, including trying to get you fired from your job.
And you'll see that you'll have people who will be pro whatever or anti-narrative, I should say, on social media. They'll be caught on camera, maybe unbeknownst to them, but they'll be caught on camera, and then suddenly they're getting fired the next time they go to work.
One of my friends, of course I won't mention who he is right now, says he has to be very careful of who he lets on his Facebook friends list, because he knows that his job would very much be at risk. And they've done surveys saying that I forget the recent one, I think it was somewhere around 62% of Americans feel like they have political beliefs that they just can't even speak about in public, or scared to speak about in public, which is, I think, almost lower than I would have expected with how much insanity is going on here.
That's amazing. That means that the majority of Americans who were surveyed
right.
believe that they will be bullied. That's insane.
Yeah, and it's not like, let's be totally honest. It's not like these people, I mean, do you really think these people hold beliefs like secretly I admire Hitler, or secretly I'm a member of the KKK? No. Their beliefs are probably hey, maybe I'm not totally sure about this gay marriage stuff, or this transgender stuff just seems really odd. That's probably, I'm not totally sure about this gay marriage stuff, or this transgender stuff just seems really odd. That's probably, let's just be honest, those are probably the beliefs. And the reason you feel that way is because gay marriage isn't a thing. It doesn't exist. It's like a square circle. It doesn't even make sense. To say that I hate to bring this up again because it's just not my favorite topic to discuss, but can two men have sexual intercourse? And the answer is no. The nature of sexual intercourse is something that is at least directed towards reproduction. That's not something two guys or two women can do. So whatever they do, it ain't that. And I don't know how else to explain it. That's just, and the fact that the conversation has even gotten to this level where people can't even comprehend that. And then of course that is one of the indispensable facets of what makes marriage possible, right? Now it doesn't mean, because this is a caricature, that it just means that you by nature you haven't frustrated what one of the aspects of marriage is, which is oriented towards both procreation and unity, which can only be satisfied by a man and a woman. Anyway, so the reason people might not be fully on board with that is because the same reason I'm not fully on board with the idea that there can be married bachelors. It just makes no sense. And people are I think here's the other issue I have. People talk about, well, it doesn't make me feel safe when people question, my gender identity or use the wrong pronoun. What about my right to live in a sane society? Why should I feel safe when the whole world is going insane? So you want to talk about the right to feel safe? The sword cuts both ways, my friend. And certainly nobody questioning the gender around right now, certainly that I've heard, thinks that people should be oppressed or abused to have gender dysphoria. I've never heard that. That seems to be another caricature, another misrepresentation. Most people would just say, I don't believe that a man can be a woman, or as CNN likes to put it, an individual with a cervix.
Yes.
What in the world is going on? And everybody knows this is nonsense. Just some people can trick themselves into halfway believing it. So the whole point is that I guarantee that most of the people in these surveys, it's not that they hold truly disgusting beliefs. I mean, there's just no way, right? I'm sure that most of the beliefs that they are afraid to share are the beliefs that most Catholics are going to be. You're committed to these beliefs as a Catholic, right? That there really is real distinctions between men and women. To differentiate, to draw definitions around men and women is rooted in their biological reality, and that a marriage, especially on the order of sacrament, can only be between a man and a woman. So, these are positions that as Catholics we have to affirm to be in good standing with the Church, and we should affirm just to be in good standing with reality, and are seriously out of step with culture these days, and their positions that if you get out of step with culture these days, it is going to really upset the mob, and you will try to be canceled for it. So
I wonder. Oh,
there's the train that lives out back of our house. It'll be gone momentarily.
So a lot of this, correct me if I'm wrong because I don't know. I would imagine that a lot of the times that people are canceled is because they've put something in writing or on video that lives on social media. Does this happen with people who, you have somebody in your office who doesn't support gay marriage, you get into a conversation? Does the mob descend there typically, you think, or is it if you put things in writing where, it's easy for people behind a screen to attack?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I think that if they can play a gotcha with you in some aspect, they'll do it. Let's remember the rules that we talked about last time after we were going through your attempted cancellation, just to remind people, is that they're not really ever looking for, an apology. They're looking for an example. They could care less about your apology. So that's always the first thing to keep in mind is you never apologize. First off, you should never apologize for being right. You should never apologize for saying something that's true, which is one of the other rules of how to actually be Catholic in Catholic culture is like when you go to make a stand I guess we're kind of just getting into the heart of the episode now.
Yeah.
I guess we're kind of just getting into the heart of the episode now
Yeah.
of how to do
go.
it, right? Yeah, let's lay out some principles. One is be right. Always be correct, right? If you're going to make a stand, make sure that you understand what the position is and that you can articulate it clearly and that you're not being reckless.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that also ties hand in hand. You can't know everything about everything. So, take some time to decide what hills you're willing to die on, what battles you're going to fight. I mean, you can't look. Most people, it's intimidating to try to think, I've got to figure out how to address issues X, Y, and Z. And I've got these other here that maybe I need to talk about and know everything about and have examples and research and data and quotations. Yeah, that can be very overwhelming. So even if you just pick like one or two that you are going to go to battle for.
Yes. And go all in.
Choose them and go all in. And make sure that you're right in that. So do your research, do your homework.
Yeah. So
do your research, do your homework.
Yeah. So the idea of picking your battles is important, but you do have to pick some battles. That's the thing. Like if Catholics especially don't start taking stands now, there's going to be a point when you don't get to take a stance anymore, right? And think about this, right? If the mob is willing to act this way when they're not in power, imagine how they will act if and when they actually get in power. So if you're not willing to take a stand now, where, the worst thing that might happen is you get called like a racist or a bigot or a xenophobe or a xylophone or a homophone or any of these words, trust me, it can and will get a lot worse when people of this mentality actually get in power. And that's not like some weird conspiratorial thinking. I always warn off against radical conspiracy theories. I'm really not that type of person.
True.
This is just history, right? Yeah. This is just how these types of ideologies, which are really Marxist types of ideologies, work. We've seen it, the playbook, again and again and again and again. And, good old-fashioned Marxism, before it was based in trying to pit people against each other based on economic classes, it's the same playbook now pitting people against like these intersectionality charts, or it's just race-based Marxism now. But it's the same ideology. And that's the one thing I wish people would understand is it's the same pernicious, evil ideology, just with a different tactic. It's the same pig, different lipstick. And if you don't fight it now, you might not have a chance to fight it later.
Right. And we did talk, without it being a very bloody battle, because we did talk about this before that we talk about the loud minority and the silent majority in this. The Soviet Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution, it wasn't a lot of people. There wasn't a majority. It was a very loud, angry, violent minority.
You do not need majority movements for a cultural and social. That is just historically not how these things work. You just need a certain sizable enough minority. That's it. Mm-hmm. So, it's not enough to just say, it's a loud minority, you don't have to worry about it. No, you do have to worry about it. And the silent majority, which is definitely a thing, most people are still saying, if you don't stop being silent, you're going to regret it. You are.
I mean, I think a lot of people probably already have. There are statistics are out there that say when Prop 8 was going through in California for the legalization of gay marriage, the majority of people actually opposed it. Mm-hmm. But there was a very loud, well-funded minority that campaigned and pushed for this, outvoted the silent majority, and it got passed.
Right.
So, and I think just to say this momentarily, I actually didn't want to say with the novena thing where my attempted cancellation, as you called it, happened. I actually wanted to just ignore it, and I that's not what I didn't sign up for that. Right? I just wanted to do a novena, and I really didn't think anything of it. I thought we could all rally around the fact that we shouldn't destroy icons of our faith and our churches and statues, blah blah. So when suddenly this fight comes knocking on my door, I remember telling you, Pat, I don't really want to do this. And he said, but if you don't fight, then who will?
Right.
And that's very important. And now I'm pro fighting for this, I have to be, because I realize now that even for a non-wrong, like what I did was not wrong in any sense of the word.
No.
They'll still attack.
Yes.
And had I not had the support of you and a couple of our friends and this, knowing that I was right, and just kowtowed to all of this, well, one, I'd feel like a horrible person, and I'd feel weak and victimized. But I would have let them win a little bit, and Christians in general, just let this go. Well, those are for those people.
Yeah, because people don't want to deal with it. So
right, who does? Nobody wants to do it.
Yeah, nobody does. I mean, it is really annoying. And it's not like these people are susceptible to argumentation. I use these people very loosely and generally, right? The people who are just going to come out screaming, calling you names. No, they're not susceptible to argument. They're really not. And that you just have to understand that at first. So what you do is you just present your case strongly, charitably, in love. You never cause yourself to sin in any of this. This is really important, which is really easy to just want to rail right back at them. So you present your case articulately, charitably, and you stay firm, and you do not apologize for holding what you believe, especially since it is the truth. And then the onslaught will continue. You'll be called names, but so long as you don't back down, and so long as you make your case, I think you'll notice two things. One is that people will rally behind you when they see this. Not all the time, but sometimes. And you'll inspire other people to be like that, to be willing to make a stand. But if they see you caving, apologizing, crooking the knee to the mob, then they're going to do the same, right? So we need to start the push back, and we do it with Catholic principles, with charity, with love, but directness, saying, no, this is wrong, here's why this is wrong. And you make your arguments, you articulate your beliefs, you stand firm, and you just understand that they will try to do everything they can to destroy your credibility, your reputation. They might even go for your job. So just have certain protections in place, and then that makes sure that you pick those battles and that you have the case. So that way, if down, you're going to have both the intellectual and moral high ground, and that's important.
And also, make sure you don't have to, and I'm terrible at this, and you've helped me a lot, is that you don't have to respond immediately. In that heat of the moment, I would probably advise against that. Right, yeah.
Argumentation is best done slow, meaning take the time, think about things, and especially when you're heated, that's not the best time to hit the enter button. I always recommend if somebody's very passionate about an argument, write it up when you're passionate, but then don't publish it right away. Sit on it for a couple hours, maybe even a day. Look at it with fresh eyes when you're a little bit cooler. So that way you're not going to put something out there that you might regret. And that is key for, again, making sure that you're speaking with as much clarity but as much charity as possible too. Because you don't want to, go off the rails and then publish something you might regret. So that is critical. Mm-hmm. So those are really the key principles. One, you have to take a stand as a Catholic. I mean, they're tearing down our statues. They're calling our saints who go to care for lepers white supremacists.
They're burning Bibles now.
They're burning Bibles now. The agenda is so obvious and clear. If it hasn't ever been before, of course it has. Like the whole ideology of Marxism, we've covered this in an episode before, is incompatible with religion, and especially Catholicism. So whether they admit it up front or not, the core of their ideology always and necessarily will involve eliminating religion of all kinds, but especially the Catholic faith.
Which is interesting. I mean, if you look at most of the attacks on religious establishments throughout the recent weeks, there's been one or two where it's been like a Protestant denomination. The vast majority are Catholics.
Yeah, and they're getting no media coverage.
Catholics.
Yeah, and they're getting no media coverage, of course.
Right.
Except for in the Catholic space,
Right.
yeah. But I mean, the absolute desecration of the sacred icons, the burning of Bibles now, all the insidious insults and threats on social media is just absolutely insane. So if anybody at any point wants to claim that there isn't a war on Christianity, it's just such an incredibly naive thing to say. The only question is, am I going to do anything about it?
So what do people, how can we advise people on how to go forth?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple things. One is you don't do it alone. Have a group. Have a group that, if you're going to make a stand for something publicly anywhere, online, maybe you're going to go stand out in front of one of these statues. There's some of these groups that do that, where these protests, quote unquote protesters, come to try and tear down these statues, and a bunch of Catholics go and stand around the statues and pray. And they've been effective. They've been effective. And thankfully, it seems to have preserved some of these really important Catholic icons. But also, have like your cohort of like you have me and a few other people, so that way when you were getting bullied, bullies don't like. When bullies always like to isolate people. That's something to keep in mind, right? They want to get you alone, and they want to get all their other bully friends to overwhelm you. But if you've got friends, bullies don't like that. They're going to be that much less likely to really try and push it, right? They'll be much more likely to back down when they see that maybe all the numbers aren't on their side. So have some friends that will be able to back you up, but again, be able to do it in charity, with respect, be able to make arguments. And make the case. So make sure you have a support community. Make sure you have quote-unquote backup, some Catholic backup. Please contact your leaders in the Catholic Church, your priests, your bishops, and let them know, like, we need you to be our leaders. We need you to be speaking out. Like, you lead, we will follow. And do that. Tell your bishops and your priests, say, hey, if you lead, whatever you're going to lead, whether it's prayers or marches, you lead, we will follow, but we need your leadership against this. Really important. And we've seen some decent responses with this. We've really seen some bishops going out there and producing content and going out there in the public square. And that's really inspiring, and it's really rallying other Catholics. So make sure that you are doing that. And, again, in charity and respect, telling your bishops, hey, we need you on this. Your priests, please help us with this. This is a really significant issue. So those are some good things. And then, of course, the Catholic basics. You got to pray, right? We are under immense. The Catholic basics. You got to pray, right? We are under immense spiritual warfare right now. Constantly pray for our country. Constantly pray for the strength of our bishops, of our priests, of our Catholic leadership. And anybody who is under the assault of cancel culture right now. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would also suggest, if you aren't necessarily able or willing to, post something that may be very divisive, say on your Facebook wall, like an anti-abortion post, then maybe go for something else that affirms the sanctity of life. Like, put up a post about how wonderful life is, or how sacred life is, even if you don't say abortion necessarily. Mm-hmm. To be unapologetically Catholic. Make your home look Catholic, make yourself look Catholic, speak and dress modestly. Never shy away from talking about your prayer life or going to Mass. Mm-hmm. Maybe in this moment it is to also focus on the beauty and the goodness of our faith. Mm-hmm. To kind of, because people are so wound up right now, especially about anything about truth. Mm-hmm. The truth is it just makes people so upset right now. It doesn't matter what it is. We're just divided on absolutely everything. So maybe find a different way to evangelize in our cancel culture.
Right. Yeah. Not everybody is called to be, the public, I guess, intellectual on an issue. But at the same time, I feel like kind of everybody almost needs to be the intellectual now. At least you need to get enough knowledge to be able to articulate the position on things like transgenderism. So, I mean, I'll recommend two things right now, just two good resources. There's a book by Ryan Anderson called When Harry Became Sally, very clever title, where he really patiently dissects the critical flaws in gender ideology and just gives very patient critiques of why this is wrong. So I'd recommend that book. There's another philosopher. His name's Thomas Bogardus, Thomas Bogardus. He's out of Pepperdine University, and he's got some good papers on this as well. He's one of the brave souls that has really gone out and published in this area, and is still holds his job. There's, of course, been a number of people, especially in recent years in philosophy, that have published on this and have just suffered dire consequences. So we got to take advantage of the work that is out there. So at least those two things, like bone up on these issues, because these are the really relevant cultural issues right now, and understand, okay, where do these ideas come from? Because most people, again, like intuitively, they're like, yeah, this just seems really batty, but you got to be able to articulate it.
Yeah. Okay. So hold on. Let me amend what I said. Do not stick to beauty and goodness because you're afraid of speaking the truth, right? It goes all together. So that's great. Post about beauty, post about goodness, but you also speak the truth, and don't be afraid to do that. And you do that, you become unafraid once you know the facts and how to articulate that argument. So we have in our Catholic faith, truth, beauty, and goodness. You'll see mostly on social media, probably beauty. Occasionally you'll see like some, feel good posts too for goodness. But do not neglect the truth as well. And don't be scared of it, because we need more people. It's very easy to post beautiful things on social media. It's more difficult to post the truthful things, but that's actually what we need most of now. So you can get your feet wet, or dabble and spread across all three of those areas, but don't just stick to beauty and goodness because you're afraid of what will happen to you if you speak. It's because you're afraid of what will happen to you if you speak. And just just be boldly Catholic, right? Get out there, because here's the other thing: there's a lot of people who are really disturbed by what's going on with culture right now, and they're looking for grounding. And I know, because I've had a lot of people reach out to me. I know you've had people reach out to you, Christine, who have just, in short, or essentially said, "Tell me more about the Catholic faith, because I'm looking for answers right now." And the world seems to have gone insane. So there's actually a ton of opportunity for evangelization right now, because people's worlds are being turned upside down in so many ways. And in that suffering, this shows one of the kind of hidden fruits that often comes out of suffering is people will start probing deeper into the biggest questions of life. So that's actually been one of the big things about evangelization, is living your life so authentically Catholic that people can't help but wonder, what is it that you've got and they want it? Right. All right. Why are you joyful and peaceful people? And why do you hold on to this truth when everybody else is telling you that it's truth is relative or whatever? That's noticeable to people. Very, very noticeable. It
is. And that's why I have to reiterate that when you do offer a critique and stand for a position, you always do it in charity and love. You don't want to seem like some angry, irate, gyrating. Holier, like, because that isn't attractive, nor is that in line with charity, with love. So Saint Paul teaches us very clearly, right? Tough love is often needed, but it should never be an occasion for sin. So we have to always practice that, and people will find that attractive. I promise you, if you can articulate a position clearly and you can do it in a way where you're not insulting or belittling others, people will, on the outside, might not be the person you're directly engaging with, because they themselves might be so irate, but people looking in on those conversations.
And there are always people looking in.
Always.
I love that one meme. I think it's
conversations.
And there are always people looking in.
Always.
I love that one meme. I think it's Michael Jackson from the start of, it was a Thriller, the music video for Thriller. He's just sitting in the movie theater, putting popcorn in his mouth. He's like, I'm just here for the comments. People are always there for the comments.
That's right.
And that's another, that's a really good point. You could be inspiring others to realize that the way the culture is moving is not okay, and that they're not alone in thinking that.
Yes.
So whether or not they hop in and like your comment or join the fight along with you, if you're doing this on social media, it could give them the confidence to start to do this on their own.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in conclusion and summary, you got to get out there. You gotta start, being bold and unapologetic and unapologetically joyful about not just your Catholic faith, but your Catholic principles, what we believe, why we believe them. Engage in, you do have to pick some battles. You can't pick every battle. You'll get exhausted. You like the life issue, right? That is just so critically important. That, to me, that's a battle that is always worth picking, because it's just so fundamental, right? But yeah, so pick something. What if it's something that's passionate, you care about, and it's good. It's good for you to grind an issue intellectually to pulp. Learn it inside out. Why do I believe this? What are the arguments for this? Why is this true? And then I think what you'll find is that will actually be very edifying for your faith as well, because I promise you'll come to see that what the Catholic Church teaches on this is correct. So it will be edifying for you intellectually, spiritually, and it will help you to better articulate it when need be.
Where would be a good spot for people to find what the Catholic Church believes on certain hot button issues?
Well, the Catechism, obviously, is the big one. But if you if you want abortion, is the big one. But if you want abortion, The Ethics of Abortion by Christopher Kazor is a fantastic book, making the case for life, engaging the most serious but also popular, arguments for abortion. Okay. If you want a very, academic presentation of it, something a little more popular, but it will probably, well equip you, would be Trent Horn's book. I forget the title.
Persuasive Pro-Life.
Persuasive Pro-Life. That would be a good one. I recommended Thomas Bogardus and Ryan Anderson for the gender issues. Those are two really big ones for Catholics right now. You have the kind of the gender issues and the life issues. So I would say, for me, I think those are two issues every Catholic needs to really start paying attention to. And those are two issues I think are really worth making a stand on.
I agree. Abortion, that alone is just that culture of death that we need to turn around and make a culture. That is one way that we can do it, by honoring all life from conception to natural end. And they are cancel topics. You will. Right.
These are the things that if you step out of line with the mainstream narrative on this, you will.
So one thing I want to leave with, because the day that I was getting cyberbullied over the novena, we happened to go to confession that day. And I was feeling very uncertain. I actually was pretty miserable all day that was happening, even though I had support. So, being bullied just sucks. Anyway, so I went into confession and I made my confession to the priest, but I also was looking for some kind of spiritual guidance. And I mentioned what was currently happening that day, that I had posted about my novena and so on. And he reminded me, and I would like to remind you that, do not be afraid of the one that destroys the body, but the one who can destroy body and soul. Perspective on this. And that is really important. Are we really afraid of what will happen to us in this life if it jeopardizes eternal life? Mm-hmm. I don't know. We got to think about our priorities and our beliefs. If we really believe in eternal life and life with God and friendship with God for eternity, do we really care so much if we are canceled in this life over that truth that gets us into eternal friendship with God?
Think of it this way: what an honor! What an honor to be able to stand up for the gospel.
Yeah, it's funny because look, I'm a new Christian, new Catholic, relatively. I would not have thought anyway. I didn't even know about the Christian martyrs all throughout the world. Our brothers and sisters in Christ in other countries in this world have been suffering horrifically for their faith this whole time. But here in the Western world, in America, it seems so distant, chronologically or geographically. And I never would have thought to have to do this here, but here we are. Or geographically, and I never would have thought to have to do this here, but here we are. And it is a timely issue where we can join ourselves with those every martyr. Yeah. Every martyr. Whether it's a white martyrdom or a red martyrdom.
What an honor to be enlisted for this cause and to be able to go to battle for it. Think of it that way. Think of it that
battling
way.
For Christ.
Right. So
that's a beautiful thing.
All right. So hopefully people find those are just some basic principles, I think. Hopefully some inspiration. And remember, you're not alone. That's the last thing. You are not alone. And that's what people think. They think I'm alone, like these surveys, but you're not. I promise you. And when you start speaking out, like I have, like you have, what you realize is that there's so many people on your side.
Yeah. So, yeah. One last thing. From that day, I got so many comments from people saying, thank you. I thought I was the only one. I'm so he finally said this. And you said this to me around that same time, is that the devil likes to divide and make you feel like you're alone. Mm-hmm. And I think the devil's he's having a field day right now, because how we feel so separated physically, spiritually, politically, emotionally. Mm-hmm. I mean, wow, we are isolated in so many ways. Well, we don't have to be, but the devil's doing a good job of making us feel that way. So in any of these big issues, you're just not alone.
You're not. Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely not alone, because there are many people who are strong in their Catholic belief who are feeling the same way.
Yep.
So just remember that, and you can always reach out to me. I'm always happy to answer any of those concerns or messages, or if you feel like you are alone in your battles. You are not. Do not despair. We have God.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. And I don't know what we'll talk about next time.
We shall see. We always welcome requests, topic requests. So you can just message Christine through email.
Hello, God's beloved. I'm Annabelle Mosley, author, professor of theology, and host of Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. I invite you to listen in and find inspiration along this sacred journey we're traveling together to make our lives a masterpiece and, with God's grace, become saints. Join me, Annabelle Mosley, for Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. God bless you. Remember, you're never alone. God is always with you.
Thank you for listening to a production of WCAT Radio. Please join us in our mission of evangelization. And don't forget, love lifts up when knowledge takes flight.